This week on the Orange Box podcast, we talk about the Xbox Developer Direct, Ubisoft's game cancellations and delays, the Banjo-Kazooie PC port, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to the new Beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 121. I am your host, the man who has started shouting, "Hold it!" and "Objection!" in his daily life, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man whose body, mind, heart, and soul are powered by AMD and Linux, Justin, better known as I Am Zaracon. How are you doing today? How's your week been?
Week's been pretty uneventful. For the most part, uneventful. Obviously, of course, we had the snowstorm that passed through like 75% of the country.
Right.
Worked from home yesterday. Today actually had off, and tomorrow I have off, but I've just been handling, basic stuff around here. I did start working on my next video. I started working on that last night. And that was, it's part of a project that I wanted to work on, and the PC case that I used was just fighting me every step of the way. Just because every time I thought I had something figured out and was ready to move on to putting in the next component, something else was fighting me. Because there was a PCI riser cable that was not working, or at least was fighting against me. The power supply bracket was fighting against me, and then just other cables were fighting against me. And so it wasn't exactly a fun experience, but everything was completed by the end of the night, and I have to do some tests, but it was a pretty interesting experience there. Yeah, other than that, though, not too much has been going on with me.
All right. Well, on my end, of course, we also had snowstorm come through, started on Friday, and then went through most of the day Saturday and Sunday. Church got canceled, so we ended up not having to do music this past week, but we should be doing it this coming week, assuming we don't have any more, major snowstorms. But good thing is basically all the work is done for that. I just need to pull music because I didn't do that yet, and then otherwise it's just doing stuff like normal. Didn't actually do much of anything productive during that time because we basically didn't go anywhere on the weekend. We took care of any shopping we needed to do before the storm came through, so there was very little we had to do. It was basically just like we did a little bit early Friday morning before it got too crazy, and then after that, there wasn't really anything until I think yesterday when, snow had cleared enough, and our street hasn't been plowed because we're just in a smaller residential street, and I haven't bothered to shovel the driveway, mostly because of the fact that it seems like every time I do that, it warms up the next day, and then it ends up being like I could have just let it melt and it would have been fine. So I've been kind of putting that off at this point, and so, but it hasn't been much of a big deal. I am planning to go to the office the next couple days, but my wife went out to do groceries, get a couple things yesterday, and didn't really have any issues on anything beyond our road. Plus our car has all-wheel drive, so it does just fine on the snow, and of course we both have a lot of experience driving in the snow. So, and apart from our street, the rest of the roads are well plowed, so I shouldn't have any problems getting to and from the office. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else really going on. Oh, I did not end up doing the Linux installation over the weekend. I just didn't really feel like doing it, and more than anything, it was also because of the fact that since we didn't have to go anywhere, I just decided to take advantage of it and was very lazy that whole weekend. It was very nice. Good to get some rest. Of course, then I got a little bit of cabin fever, and I think it was either Saturday or Sunday. I was just like tired at the end of the day because I basically had been sitting in bed pretty much the whole day just playing games, and so I just, hop on the exercise bike, and that helped a lot. But the one downside has been that because of how bad everything is out there as far as sidewalks go and stuff, I haven't walked the dogs in several days. My wife had time to do it earlier today, so she did, and I'll probably try to make that happen tomorrow morning. But regardless, I don't think there's really anything else. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but it probably wasn't anything important, so. What have you been playing this week?
So, played a few small things and then one big thing. So I saw that there was a demo for this game called Greedland, and essentially it is it's a survivors game. But the thing that really caught my attention was, unlike most survivors games that are fantasy based, this one was sci-fi based, and so I was like, all right, that scenario is different enough, so I'll give it a shot. There is some sort of story going on, but I didn't really pay too much attention to that, so I just played through the demo. It seemed pretty basic stuff, in the survivors genre. There are different power-ups that you can get throughout the game. I haven't really encountered too many of those, and there are certain upgrades. It also seems to be a whole lot easier because I got through the first level, or at least I guess the full demo, without dying once. So, I mean, it'll probably be harder. I think one thing that makes it either it can make it easier or harder to a degree is the choice between automatic controls and manual. Since automatic, it treats it sort of like your standard or at least Vampire Survivors, where you just move around and the character auto attacks and aims and stuff. Whereas with manual, it's sort of like a twin stick shooter, and you have to aim and fire at the same time. And also your gun can overheat as well, which provides a bit of a layer of depth there. And then if you get a certain power up, that actually can be to your advantage, because when it overheats, it can have a knockback effect. So that has something that's nice there. So depending on how you play, it might be good. I did enjoy it enough to where I decided, since the game was also on sale for a few dollars, I went ahead and bought it. So I won't be getting into it right now just because of other stuff, but that'll be there in my backlog waiting for me. Then I went back and played a little bit more Hyperdots. This one, the levels are definitely getting a lot harder now. Like before, the levels were like, all right, it's easy to, there's a bit of a challenge here, but now it's just essentially going, these levels are really just starting to kick my butt. Yeah. And I mean, I think I have about 20 so left, but some of them just, it just getting a lot more tense, and I think I might need to switch controllers to the one where I can control the sensitivity of my joystick, just because I feel like the slightest twitch sends me moving a whole lot farther than I went to. So if I could possibly tighten that up, then that would make things a bit easier for me just for moving around some. So I might do that at some points there. But yeah, I was just trying to see how much farther I can get into completing that. But the main thing that I've been playing, though, has been more Hades 2. And wow, I've definitely been enjoying everything so far. Oceanus, that area has just been a major pain in the neck for me. Just trying to A, get through there, B, also finally getting to the boss. And that boss has been aggravating. The sirens. And I mean, it wasn't, at first when I got to there, I was like, all right, here's the next boss, got to try to fight the boss. And then I realized, wait a second, there's a drummer. Nathan said to attack the drummer first. And so then I realized, all right, let me go and attack you and, take care of that. And then it wasn't until probably a bit later on I realized, oh, that's why he said to attack the drummer first. And so, yeah, that boss has been giving me quite a headache. And I mean, I died probably about 5 times to them before finally being able to beat them. Because I mean, at first, eventually when I was taking them out one by time, I thought, okay, that seems pretty interesting. I'm taking them down. Things seems to be going well. But I'm only getting about halfway through the boss, through the health bar. I'm like, something's not right here. And then, oh, it's coming back. They're all coming back again. And I'm like, okay, this isn't going to be fun.
Yeah.
So, I died several times there, and then I had to keep coming back and getting runs. And then I eventually did unlock some of the other weapons that you get. I've been using the, can't remember what they're called, but the sickle and dagger. I've been using that primarily right now, and I've been enjoying that so far. So one thing that seemed interesting to me was, at least compared to my earlier runs in Hades 1, Chaos Gates seems to be more prominent, or at least I'm seeing them more frequently than I did in the first game, which has been interesting because whenever I've seen a Chaos Gate, I've wanted to go in there just so I can use up my give out my nectar to Chaos, so that way I can boost the relationship stats there, and also try to get all the boons necessary for the prophecy on that end. So like I've been doing that there, and that also has kind of been messing me up at the same time because getting those chaos boons, just because of the prerequisites of don't do this or do this, has been messing me up, especially the ones where it's either don't attack, don't use your basic attack, or clear rooms within 2 minutes. And I'm just like, okay, that would be great if I was back at Erebus, but no Oceanus, I don't have that. I really need to use my basic attacks, or I need to think about what I'm doing so I don't die, because I don't do that much damage, or I can get hit pretty easily. So I need to take my time to clear these rooms out, and so unfortunately that kind of messed up several of my runs. So by the time I essentially completed those boons, I didn't survive too much further just because my health was pretty low at that point. I think for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and I've sort of started using this as well, was the Death Defiance perks that I've had, just because I just want to become more familiar with the bosses and stuff and make sure that I understand. Now, granted, I got through, I can't remember what the fields, or is it the Fields of Mourning or the Mourning Fields? I can't remember what the order is.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's on the tip of my brain, but yeah.
Yeah, like that, surprisingly, I got through that area on my first try, and then I got through Tartarus, and I got to Chaos. I mean, not Chaos. I got to Kronos, and yeah, that was, I mean, it went about as expected, but I was just like, all right, so that's how we're gonna do things here. And I mean, I'm pretty certain there's going to be a second phase, because there was one for Hades in Hades 1. So it's gonna take me a couple tries to get through that. I know.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I am also surprised about that I realized is that I thought I was going to have some sort of competition with Nemesis, which I did up having. I didn't realize I would be competing with Artemis as well during some encounters too. So I was like, all right, that's interesting. Now I found the Artemis encounters easier to deal with than the Nemesis ones, just because Nemesis seems to hit a whole lot harder and is dealing damage more frequently than Artemis does. So I haven't been able to beat her yet, but I'm still working at it. But unfortunately, unlike Thanatos, Nemesis takes your money, and so that also sort of messes me up whenever I went to buy some items, especially if I'm trying to get a couple different things like a new boon and also maybe healing as well, on that end. So there's that. I'm slowly progressing with other things like getting newer stats, boosting, getting new cards in the Arcana. So that's also helping me out, also expanding my grasp as well, so that way I can hold more too.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm making progress. I just for giggles, I went up to the surface once just to see what it's like up there. Of course, I died not too long, probably about like 3 rooms before I died, but I was just like, let me see what it's like up there, what the enemies are like. And yeah, so I mean, at some point I might try to go back up there, maybe see if there's something I can do, grab a few items before I die to get the enchantment I need. But yeah. So I'm definitely enjoying the game, and this is definitely gonna be my prime game for right now until I finish it.
Yeah, when it comes to going to the surface, the first, before you get the enchantment, basically the only purpose of doing it is just to get the resources you need. Just find those in rooms. There's stuff to mine, and then some stuff to pick up, and then like, I think there's a couple things that you need from Chaos Gates, which you thankfully, it took me a while to realize it, but you don't do it. You don't have to find the Chaos Gate on the surface. You can just do that in the underworld. So. Because I don't know. The Chaos Gates do eventually show up on the surface. I don't know if they show up before you get the enchantment, though. And it wouldn't be worth trying to get at that point anyway, because your health is draining constantly. But, yeah. So, one of the things that I found was really helpful for me was, for one, with the casts, not having them as... Or, well, let me back up. When using the cast, either... no, it's not called the cast in this game. Whatever it is, the circle that you put down. Is it called a cast in this game? For some reason,
they're
I'm forgetting.
Called casts, but then you can also add hexes to them.
Right. So anyway,
I don't know like how that works.
Right. So if you are wanting to put down the charged ones that actually do damage by default, I personally found that it was easier to get the ones where you just drop it rather than aim it and point it at the enemy. But if you're not doing a charged one with the hex, then it's fine to do it, where you're just pointing it, because then you just aim it very quickly and fire it off. But like, especially when facing the sirens, I was just like constantly dropping them down. Like I would drop it down, run away, and just keep dropping it over and over. I'd still obviously be attacking in between, but that made a big difference in taking down, especially like the drummer, a lot faster. But even taking down Skilla also made a big difference, dropping the casts down all the time. So there's that. Yeah, I can't think of much else, but yeah, the fields I had was the same for me. I got through that my first try without too much difficulty. Occasionally I would have difficulty on it, but that was really just in my earlier runs, and now it's like I can get through it pretty quickly and easily. I think the only time I really had trouble with it was a couple times when I was doing some of the high fear runs, and just happened to get some choose some basically some things that made it more difficult, picking the wrong things to make it more difficult. So, but yeah, good stuff. I'm assuming you're
actually.
Just real quick, I was going to ask, I'm assuming you're not using God mode.
No, not right now. I might use it during the fear runs, but so far I feel like I don't really need to.
Fair enough. But anyway, what were you going to ask?
I just remembered that I had one encounter with Kronos earlier on where I was transported to Asphodel.
Oh, yeah.
That's only happened to me one time so far. Does that happen ever again, or is that just like a one-time thing?
It's just random. It happens occasionally. It's always when you're in whatever the water area is. I always I'm so bad with names. Oceanus. Yeah, when you're on Oceanus, occasionally you'll get transported to Asphodel, but it's like at most once per run. So. But yeah. Okay. Cool. Good stuff. All right, so my list this week was long and not at the same time. So I guess first I'll just mention some things that I played that were more like brief, more just kind of testing than anything else. One of those was Control. I decided to, this is the first time I booted it up on my PC since before I did any upgrades, actually. The last time I had played it on my desktop was when I was still on my 2080 Ti with my i9-9900K processor. So it was quite some time ago. But back when I was doing it then, you know, it was 1080p and I was getting like 80 to 90 frames per second was pretty average. It was probably more like 70 to 90 with all the settings maxed out otherwise. And now at 1440p with everything maxed out except ray tracing obviously turned off, I'm getting, I think on the low end, like 110, somewhere in like the low hundreds, going up to 120 plus is pretty average. With everything maxed out. When I turned on ray tracing, it just killed the frame rate. But granted, that was when I maxed out the ray tracing. If I had it like on medium for ray tracing, which I think is the lowest that it goes to, it was getting around 90 to 100 something frames per second. But it's like, I'd rather just have the extra frames. And so I turned off ray tracing completely and went with the other thing. But of course, I'm very rusty on the game because it's been quite a while since I played it. And my controller, the back buttons on my controller are set for with buttons programmed for Shadow of Wars, and I didn't want to reprogram them since it's not like a per game programming like it is with the Steam Deck, and so I did not play a whole lot. Plus, I couldn't quite figure out how to get to where I needed to go next for the objectives because like I had already completed the story a couple years ago, but I hadn't gotten through the DLC yet, or at least not all of it. So, like I got through the one that was connected with Alan Wake, but I have not ever done the second one all the way through. So at some point I'll probably go back to it. Probably mostly just play it on Steam Deck because it does play, you know, well enough on Steam Deck to where I'm pretty happy with it, and I played most of the game that way anyway. But yeah, I mostly just wanted to test it out since I hadn't tested it yet. Then I also, just because it was, I can't remember exactly, it was that video that I shared with you from Digital Foundry about the current state of Bloodborne on PC that got me wanting to check it out again. So I booted it up first on my laptop, and I don't have footage from there, but the laptop, it was, you know, running well enough to where I was pretty happy with it, but I mostly just wanted to see, okay, you know, where is my save on the laptop? Because remember before when I was trying to play it on my desktop, the save was glitching out and it would like crash on me. And I don't know what happened to my save that was having the crash issues, but I did have, you know, a save that was at least, it wasn't quite as far, but at least it was as far in terms of being past the same bosses, which the last boss I had fought was the Bloodstar Beast. And so I just, I brought, well, first I updated Shad PS4 on my desktop because I realized that was probably the reason why it was crashing, was just that build that I had was causing it to crash. But I transferred over my save so that I wasn't working with the save that was like early game when I had restarted. And so then running at, you know, 1440p, easily able to maintain 60 FPS and looking great and everything. I didn't play very much. I couldn't quite remember exactly where I needed to go to get back to where I had left off before my save was not working properly. But like I said, I still was at least past the Bloodstar Beast. So whenever I decide that I'm actually ready to go back to it, everything's working just fine on my desktop again, which is great because that makes it actually worth playing there. But yeah, like I don't know if I'll be doing that anytime soon, but whenever I decide I'm ready to, I probably will give it another shot, going back and forth between my laptop and my desktop. I mean, because like even though the laptop, it definitely has some issues, it still runs well enough to where it's playable, and I would be playing it most of the time on the desktop. So anyway, didn't play very much of that. Played like probably half an hour. But then there was this whole thing with the Banjo-Kazooie recompilation, which got me wanting to check out not only that, but also recheck out to the Ocarina of Time recompilation, as well as Mario Kart 64. So, as far as that goes, I didn't play a lot, but I did get Ocarina of Time running on the Steam Deck, and it's, 90 frames per second, and I mean, it basically looks like the N64 game, but runs a lot better, and so the footage here is from the Steam Deck, but yeah, it still was pretty fun, and I think, I rendered it at 200% resolution, so it's running at 1600p on the Steam Deck, which is kind of pointless in reality, but it still runs at a locked 90, so it's like, why not? But yeah, it's pretty good stuff. The one thing that I haven't figured out yet is how to do gyro aiming on there, because you have to be able to assign the gyro to have a certain functionality, and since there's no second stick on the N64, I mean on this original version, it's trying to figure out how to set it to where I can have gyro aiming. I probably just need to look it up. There might be a mod or something that I need to find to make it possible. But yeah, so I didn't play a whole lot of that, but it was more just because I wanted to do that. And with Mario Kart 64, so of course on my desktop, 240 frames per second. I have side-by-side footage here. First is recording it where it's just the recompilation on its own that doesn't have any mods attached to it. Basically, it's just running 240 frames per second, and unfortunately, this one doesn't like natively support the N64 controller in the same way that Ocarina of Time does. So it was a little wonky from that standpoint. I mean, it still worked. It just didn't work as well as it does with Ocarina of Time. And so the side-by-side footage here, there's one that has no mods, so it still has like the original character models where it's kind of pixelated and everything. And then the one next to it, it has character models, like HD mods to basically make the character models look like the original artwork does on the cover. Where it's not like, it doesn't look like, super ultra HD or anything, but it does. But the resolution is, HD resolution. It's not pixelated. Instead of being like sprite based, it's actually 3D models and all that. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I tried it out on the Steam Deck as well. I don't have any footage of that, but of course Steam Deck obviously runs at 90 frames per second. It was kind of fun just going back and playing it, because Mario Kart 64 was the first Mario Kart I really got into and put a lot of time into as a kid. Absolutely love that one so much, and of course having a native PC port makes it that much better. But what of course was the big thing here, and okay, I do have it here. Banjo-Kazooie. So Banjo recompiled. Of course, on my desktop, obviously 240 frames per second. I did do an HD mod that really just, all it does is it just changes so that the portraits and the text and everything are HD instead of being not. So it's 1440p, 240 frames per second on desktop. Controls really well, runs well. You can enable analog camera controls, which is a lot better than just having the tap, tap, tap with the C buttons. And then on the Steam Deck, obviously runs at locked 90 frames per second with all the same deals going on. And there's a couple of mods, and you may or may not have seen these. There's one that I don't know a whole lot about it. I think it's basically just someone created some additional levels that are just new levels added to the main game. It might be like a whole different set of levels, but it's, you know, based heavily on the original game. And then there's a different one where they basically took all of the world from Ocarina of Time and made them into Banjo-Kazooie levels. So then I mean, it's not like you're not actually doing, you're not fighting the original bosses that are in Ocarina of Time or anything, but it's all the environments, and then it has like separate of the Jiggies, the puzzle pieces, and then the honeycombs and the musical notes and all that. And I didn't test any of those out. I have them downloaded, but since I've never actually fully finished Banjo-Kazooie, I want to actually play it all the way through normally. Especially because that was, for a while there, that was the only real reason I was still keeping Nintendo Switch Online, was because I had played a decent chunk of this game on there. But now it's like, well, for one, I wanted to get rid of Switch Online anyway, but since I can play this natively on here instead of having to emulate it and get high frame rates and everything else, I have even less of a reason to have Switch Online. So, but yeah, the bit I played, I basically just played through the first level and, got all the collectibles there. At least I'm pretty sure I got everything, all the puzzle pieces and musical notes and the Mumbo tokens that let you turn into the termite for that first level. But yeah. So that's pretty much it for those games. Now, as for the games where I put the most time, first of all, I'll just mention of the ones I spent. The one I spent the least amount of time of the 3 games was Middle-earth: Shadow of War, and once again playing this both on desktop and on my Steam Deck, and I didn't move the needle on the story. I basically have just been wandering around and killing like orc captains and that sort of thing. Probably when I play some more, I will be focusing more heavily though on actually moving the story forward, because after a while it gets kind of old just doing the same things over and over, and at least if I move the story forward, then I'll have more abilities and actually be able to start recruiting orcs and all that. But yeah, so that one's been good what I've played of it. It's basically just been kind of like, okay, we're watching Psych right now, I'll play that while we have Psych on. But the thing where I spent definitely the most time above all else was Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations, which I finished. I finished that up on Saturday. I think it was Saturday. Yeah, pretty sure it was Saturday. And so, of course, thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, that was the 3rd game of the first trilogy. And, definitely had a good time with it. And once again, for those who haven't listened previously, I'm playing it on 3DS. So, after I finished that, I jumped right into the next game in the series, at least in terms of release order, and that is Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. And that is also on 3DS. Now this one it takes place 7 years after the last game. I'm not going to talk any story spoilers beyond that, just mention, that it's quite a bit later. You're playing as a different attorney, although Phoenix Wright still does play a part in the game. And it definitely has some good quality of life improvements. Like visually, the art style is improved, even though I really liked the one from the original 3 games. One of the things that's probably my favorite of the quality of life improvements, which is minor but also very helpful, is that after you do a quick save on the first trilogy, after you do a quick save, it takes you back to the main menu. This one, it says, it gives you the option after you do the quick save, do you want to return to the main menu? And then you can say no. And that way you don't have to keep resetting every time you save, which is very helpful. But yeah, I've been having a good time with this one. I didn't get quite as much time with this as I did with the previous game. But yeah, and I looked into the Ace Attorney Investigations one that you mentioned, the one where you play as, what's his face? Miles Edgeworth. And although from a storyline perspective, those take place in between these two trilogies, from a release standpoint, it actually was released after this one was released. Because this one was originally released on the DS, and then I think it might be right after this one that they started doing the investigations games. But anyway, so they released those as a trilogy for the investigation games, as HD trilogy thing on like Switch and PC and everything. So I went ahead and just ordered the physical version of the Switch one. Mostly just because it's like, well, I already have the games on Nintendo platforms, and I kind of want to keep the experience uniform, I guess you could say, because like I have most of the games I have on 3DS, and then the ones that are not available on 3DS I have on Switch, which right now is just Great Ace Attorney, or no, what is it? It's what is that one called? I'm trying to find it. It is, oh yes, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. So, but then now I'm getting the other trilogy that has the Ace Attorney Investigations games. And like I considered doing Steam, but because of the fact that I don't really want to go, but I think that it would kind of ruin my experience with the rest of the games if I went to Steam, because it's like I got, the 30 FPS on these games, then I jump up to 90 FPS, and then I drop back down to 30. I'd rather just stay with 30 the whole way through, plus, getting it physical and everything. I mean, with the other Ace Attorney games, the ones I have on 3DS, they're all digital copies, but because of the fact that my 3DS is modded and everything, I own those games. Nintendo can't take them away from me, no matter how much they might want to. And so I can enjoy my games, and I just want to be able to own all my copies. And like I would probably consider still getting the Steam versions down the line if they're really cheap, but yeah, I kind of like to keep that uniformity as much as possible. And unless I'm going like, I don't want it to be a downgrading experience from one game to the next. I want it to be an upgrade from one game to the next. And the easiest way for that to happen is to keep them all more or less on the same platform or in the same series of platforms. And then I'll just play them in order of release, which they're kind of all over the place. Because like there's the investigations games. I think the first one was released either right after the first Apollo Justice game, or maybe after the Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton. I can't remember. Anyway, the point is that I'm playing them in release order. That's how I prefer to play the games, because then I always get to appreciate all the quality of life improvements from game to game, and so on and so forth. Even if story-wise, technically the games take place before other games. So, but yeah, I think that's everything. Oh, I did play one other game, but I'll talk about it a bit later because it fits into one of our discussion topics. So, yeah, that's everything.
Okay. Going back to Shadow of War, I remember last week you said that with Shadow of Mordor, the world was, I guess, not necessarily semi-open, but it was sort of contained. Did that sort of structure carry over to Shadow of War, or is that world a bit larger? Because I know you said you were doing exploration and stuff. So how's the world in that one?
I mean, Shadow of Mordor is just a smaller world, but Shadow of War, I think it just has more areas than Shadow of Mordor, if I remember correctly. I mean, it's been probably like 6 years since I played through Shadow of Mordor, but Mordor was. I mean, I feel like Mordor just had like one big area, and then Shadow of War has like 2 or 3 areas, and they're not like huge. It's kind of similar to like a Batman sized map, I would say, like more similar to like Arkham City, I think, in terms of the size of the map. So it's not like gigantic, but it's still pretty big. And fast travel on my desktop is instantaneous. I can fast travel from one location to another, and there's no loading screen. It just I'm there. So it's pretty nifty.
Yeah, I'm definitely sure it is. And then also I was curious about the. Why's that not? Whoops. Sorry, I just realized that my laptop cable came out, so it's not charging this entire time. About Banjo-Kazooie. So regarding the different mods, so are those sort of levels that have the Ocarina of Time, I guess you could say, layouts, or I guess like the environments are in the levels, or is it like the Ocarina of Time levels themselves are there but just modded, essentially?
I think it's basically just modded. Like it's the worlds themselves. Obviously, like none of the NPCs that are in the original game. I think it's more or less just basically they brought the maps from Ocarina of Time over to Banjo-Kazooie into the engine. And originally it was just like a mod for the N64 ROM, but now it's a mod that was brought over to the recompilation for PC.
That's definitely interesting then, because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just wondering, what if, I mean, if you could do that with a game that wasn't made by Rare, I feel like you could possibly then theoretically do it with Rare's other games, like say make levels based off of say GoldenEye or Donkey Kong 64 or Jet Force Gemini. Like, I mean, that would be kind of interesting to me to see. And I mean, I think that having this game ported over is great in a sense. I mean, granted, having the other compilations are also, great. But the fact that we never got Rare Replay ported to PC, and that's like the one game I would like Microsoft to bring over, but they never did.
Yeah.
And I guess to a degree we're slowly getting those games ported over in that sense, since we've got this. I mean, granted, the game's been available via emulation, but the fact that we have a native port for whatever platform you're on, whether it's like on Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, you have a native port there. So the fact that we have that is great. Running it at essentially uncapped frame rates. So, you can get as much as you want or as much as your monitor can handle.
And widescreen.
And widescreen. Although, from what I've seen, running it in ultra widescreen is not a great idea. From what I've seen, like screenshots that people have sent and stuff.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the ultra widescreen, but
yeah, but definitely the widescreen though is just beautiful. But yeah, I just think that having this was great. I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I don't know what the full details are, but I saw something that someone has a project set up to try to have decompilation of the PS2 library, and it's like gonna be like a slow progress thing, but that's like being worked on. I'm just like, that sounds pretty good.
I mean, like I know that they already did the first 2 Jak and Daxter games years ago. I just haven't tracked down the the PC ports of those yet. Mostly just because I forgot about it when I was looking at the other ones. Like, I wanted to get the ones for Perfect Dark and Mario 64, but those ones seemed like they were more complicated to get. Whereas, like, with Banjo and Ocarina of Time and Mario Kart 64, it was just super easy. And so, I don't know. I probably just need to look at that more closely. Probably just find, like, a video guide or something. But at least when I was looking it up before, it was unfortunately more complicated than I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I initially, what I thought was the game, because initially when I heard about Mario 64, I was like, all right, that sounds great and cool and stuff. And so I was looking at one thing, and essentially what it ended up being was just like an actual EXE of Mario 64. And then eventually at some point I was looking around some more, and I did see the actual process. And I think I agree that or at least maybe the process that I saw wasn't as bad, because it seemed to be somewhat, maybe a little trickier than setting up Ocarina of Time, but it wasn't it wasn't a major headache, because I think also I was also trying to also get a mod set up where it was doing a sort of HD textures to look like the like the artwork, sort of, instead of like looking at the pixelated, more blocky character models. But I never ended up getting that set up, so I think I can definitely agree about that being a bit more of a headache than Ocarina of Time. But I still need to go back and do GoldenEye at some point.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I think I just need to look up a video on how to get those ones working properly, because like the main thing is I just couldn't figure out exactly what I needed to actually download. It was just really not very clear to me, whereas it was very straightforward. It was like, okay, you download this tool, and then you add your own copy of the ROM to the game. It loads it in, does the decompilation, and like it took a little bit longer with Ocarina of Time than did with the others. The others, it was like piece of cake, super simple. Ocarina of Time, it still was fairly simple though. And even adding mods was very easy for both Banjo and Ocarina. But yeah. And Mario Kart.
Yeah, that's one that I definitely also need to get set up, because it's been so long since I've played Mario Kart. And that one was like the first one I played. And oddly enough though, like I was playing it at a vacation Bible school for one time, and for some reason the only level people were playing was Rainbow Road. So that's like one that's quite the way to get introduced to the game series, just like always playing on that level.
Yeah, but at least Rainbow Road and Mario Kart 64 actually has walls on, or has barriers on most of the level, whereas, you know, like the later ones, it's always, oh, there's no walls whatsoever. You just gotta stay on the track as best as you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, good stuff. I feel like there's something I'm forgetting about, but that's really pretty much it. Like I said, the last game that I played, the footage that I have recorded isn't even something that I recorded today, because I was having issues getting it properly recorded, but it relates to one of our main news topics, so we can talk about that. Especially because of the fact that the amount that I played wasn't anything significant in terms of moving stuff forward. But yeah, I'll just play the footage when we're talking about that topic. Mm-hmm. All right, anything else before we move on into the news?
No, sir.
All right, well, I guess the first news topic we can bring up is we got some confirmation from the Final Fantasy VII Remake director. Previously, we had discussed the possibility that they had said that they might be switching over to Unreal Engine 5 for Part 3 of the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. But thankfully, they have confirmed they are going to stick with Unreal Engine 4. And to read some of the main reasons behind this from an article from Video Games Chronicle, Hamaguchi let me back up. Naoki Hamaguchi, who is the director behind the remake trilogy, explained that while Unreal Engine 4 is now considered somewhat dated compared to Unreal Engine 5, the development team has made so many adjustments to the base engine that sticking with it has made for a smoother transition to the third game. He was quoted as saying, "We've been using Unreal Engine 4, but we made a lot of modifications to fit our needs. It's more beneficial to have something we're already familiar with and have customized to fit our needs." So, that's essentially the gist of what it is. Apart from the fact that this is sticking with Unreal Engine 4 will also probably make it easier to actually put all 3 games on the Switch too. So, what are your thoughts?
I think this is great news. This is what I wanted. I did not want to have a shift in engines. I really would rather just have them have the same engine throughout the whole trilogy, and then after 7, they can go ahead and jump to UE5 if they wanted. Part of that was because of the fact that there was going to be a huge performance drop switching from UE4 to UE5, just because UE5 is UE5. But additionally, I think having that consistent style throughout all 3 games would be great, because I'm probably going to be the minority for saying this, but I was not a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts 3 being in UE5, just because while...
It's not in 5.
I mean, I'm sorry, gosh.
In 4.
UE4, UE4. I was not a fan of that, because while it did help with the art style translating over to like the Pixar worlds and stuff, it just looks so different from the art style from like every game before that point, outside of like the opening CGI intros and outros. Like the in-game art style graphics and then the general cutscene graphics, it has that same distinct style. So like having that huge shift I wasn't a fan of, and so I feel like something similar to a degree. I mean, granted, the Final Fantasy VII graphics have been more realistic than Kingdom Hearts, but I just would rather have just keep things in the same style. And like Hamaguchi said, everyone's been working with Unreal Engine 4. Why not just stick with it? And they're already familiar with it, so just go ahead and use that. And also, there's the benefits of, it being, if all the games are in Unreal Engine 4, that should be simple enough to put on the Switch 2. Oh, excuse me. Because, I mean, have we had any Unreal Engine 5 games on the Switch 2 yet?
I think Fortnite's update is in 5, but apart from that, I don't believe so.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just like really curious to know how games are running on there so far. I mean, it's more powerful than the Steam Deck, but the Steam Deck is not doing that great with any Unreal Engine 5 games. I mean, at best, you're going to be getting like 40 frames per second.
Right.
But to my knowledge, there's no UE5 game that is able to actually hit 60 so far, unless you have probably some major compromises and are using upscaling. It's just not happening right now. Maybe also if it's a game that is an open world, because so far the only games that I have played are open world. So maybe like a smaller game could work, but otherwise it's just been blech for the most part. But yeah, I think this is great, and I mean, you probably can push the games to as much as you can if you're using the same engine, because I mean, look at Rocksteady. The Arkham games have been using Unreal Engine 3 from Asylum to Night, and they've been pushing that engine, like they've been milking that thing for all it's worth. I mean, some people have said that Arkham Knight is using a heavily modified version of Unreal Engine 3, so it's technically 3.5, but the base layer, it's still 3. So, it's incredible how they made Arkham Asylum, and you look at that game, it's like, it looks good, But then when you look at Arkham Knight, and it's like,
Right.
that was from the same engine? And I mean, and to this day, I think Knight is one of the best looking games in existence. And I mean,
Yeah.
we've got games that are Unreal Engine 4 that do not hold a candle to how good Knight looks. And I mean, it's just like, that is like the Rocksteady was phenomenal. So I mean, they might not necessarily push things to the big degree. I mean, like, consider how when Final Fantasy VII Part 2 came out and people said this game looks so much better than Part 1 looked. So imagine if Square does the same thing with Part 3, and then people say, oh my goodness, as good as Part 2 looked, they did a phenomenal job with Part 3, and like they did in the same engine. So they have the same chance to pull. I mean, they might not pull it to the same degree, but they have a chance to pull another Arkham Knight by pushing the engine that they're using as far as they can, and just make it look even better. And so you could have something that tries to approach an Unreal Engine 5 look, but you could probably still get the Unreal Engine 4 performance. So I think that's a pretty good trade that you would have there. So I think that's another reason why, essentially, I am glad this is happening, and I would much prefer them do this than just go to Unreal Engine 5, and things could look better, but they'll just run a whole lot worse, and that's definitely not that great. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, so this is the other game that I, played a little bit today. I installed it on my laptop just because I was thinking, I've been kind of itching to give the game another try, try to get back into it, just focus on moving the needle forward on the story so that I can actually enjoy the game some more, because I was just getting so bogged down by the open world. And so I mean, as I get back into this one, whether I really stick with it or not, I'm just reminded at how well these games run. I mean, Rebirth definitely doesn't run as well as Remake, but it still runs really well, and at least on my desktop, like, I'm getting really good performance. On my laptop, I can still get 60 FPS. And it is the thought that they're going to stick with Unreal Engine 4 instead of going to Unreal Engine 5 is just very, very helpful for me, because while yes, my computer can certainly run UE5 games, I want the better performance, and these games already look very good. Rebirth has a couple more issues because of the being open world, but even then it still runs pretty well, apart from on the Steam Deck where it just really doesn't run well. But I'm very, very glad that they're sticking with Unreal Engine 4, because we know what they can do with it, and I'm sure that they can in some ways make improvements to make it even better. And I'm hoping that maybe the next game won't be quite as open. I mean, I have a feeling it probably still will be, because they're probably going to stretch it out as much as they can. Which is sad, especially because where Remake ended, like, basically right when you are leaving Midgar, which was an early part of Disc 1 in the original game, Rebirth ends basically at the same point as the end of Disc 2 on the original game. So Rebirth covers significantly more story. And if we consider that, Disc 3 was not very long for the original game, so the idea that that they would stretch out the third game to make it significantly longer worries me a little bit, but at least with it running on Unreal Engine 4, it should run well and will, probably still be well designed. I'm just hoping it's not quite as bloated. But yeah, as an overall thing, I think this is very good. I'm still really curious to see how Rebirth is going to run on the Switch 2. Because it's like Remake, yeah, it looks good, runs at locked 30, no problems. But Remake is also based off of a PS4 game. And Rebirth, with how it runs on the Steam Deck, I mean, theoretically with DLSS, it should run better on the Switch 2 than it does on the Steam Deck. However, I still have a feeling that it's probably going to have to make some significant sacrifices just because of the fact that even if the Switch 2 is technically more powerful than the Steam Deck, it still potentially has some issues. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with all that. And yeah, I'm still glad though that this is going to be Unreal Engine 4 for the third game as well. So that's all I got.
Quick question though about your experience. Like, I remember the last time, at least I think the last time you played Rebirth was during the live stream. Did you play anything after that point, before you played today, or were you picking up from that last point?
I mean, I was just, well, so like I had played during the live stream back, that was what, Extra Life last year. And then beyond that, I only played a little bit here and there. I mean, I definitely got farther, but I didn't make it super far past that point. Like I haven't even gotten to Cosmo Canyon yet, or rather, I just got to Cosmo Canyon. So, because I had been stuck in like the open world area around there, and I had gotten myself lost, and I ended up looking up how to get there and realized that I just had to go backwards to a previous part of the map, and then from there it was easy to find my way to Cosmo Canyon. But yeah, so it assuming that I stick with it for a little bit, which I'm probably at least going to play some like tomorrow, then I'll at least move the needle forward on the story. But yeah. All right. You want to talk about these canceled Ubisoft games?
Yeah. So there has been an announced, or I guess a full announcement from Ubisoft that the company has canceled 6 games that have been in development, and delayed 7 others. So the list of games, let me just make sure this is the full list here. Well, actually, I don't think we have a full list of the game. Oh, actually, we have a couple games that were mentioned. So the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake, that was on the list of games that were canceled. Additionally, other games that were canceled were were, I think, a Rainbow Six Siege game. There was also, I think, rumors of Assassin's Creed. Which one was that again? This list, Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake. And then remaining games were canceled. Now, I don't believe that any of the other games that were mentioned. Actually, no. I think the Black Flag remake was one of the delayed games, but we didn't receive a full mention of what the list of games were. But the only one that we know that definitely was confirmed was Sands of Time, and there actually was a post about saying that the game was canceled, and fans definitely were not happy about that at all. Additionally, there are 2 studios that were being closed as well. The first one is, what's the name of that individual studio? Okay, it's Halifax Studio and it's Stockholm Studio. Those were the studios that were closed, and the company also said they were going to be selling other assets, but they haven't given us specific details as to what those are, so we don't know if those are going to be full franchises or like game franchises, or if those are just going to be smaller stuff as well. Then this is most likely in an effort to help, or an effort to help save the studio, because they've been in a free fall for their stock. But yeah, that is essentially the main gist of things. So, what are your thoughts on the cancellations and delays?
Well, first of all, I do want to note that one of the games that has not been canceled is Beyond Good and Evil 2, which was originally announced in 2007 or 2008. And then they showed off a big lengthy teaser about a game that looked way too good for what was supposed to be on PS4 and Xbox One. It's like, I remember, people who were heavy on those consoles telling me, oh yeah, this game's coming to PS4 and Xbox One. I'm like, no, it's not. There's no chance with everything they're talking about that they want to do with this game. And it's like, these consoles cannot handle that. There's not a shot. And even with the PS5 and the Series X, maybe, depending on what they ultimately do with it, but I have a feeling this is going to be kind of like a Duke Nukem Forever situation, except it might not even ever actually come out. Whereas Duke Nukem Forever at least actually came out. But as far as the games that have been canceled and delayed, it is disappointing that the remake of Prince of Persia got canceled. But at the same time, I kind of wish that they would just port the old game. I mean, like do an HD, like do a remaster of it and bring it forward. I mean, right now, those of us who have PC can play the original Prince of Persia, or the one from the GameCube, PS2, Xbox era. We can still play that. But anyone who's wanting to play it on modern consoles, probably the Series X could play it, but PlayStation can't. And of course, obviously Nintendo can't either. It would be nice to see them just remaster the original game, at least, if they're not going to remake it. But I remember when they showed off the remake, the initial trailer for that, and I personally thought it looked just fine. Like I was pretty happy with the way it looked, but it got a lot of really negative feedback, and so then they closed the studio that was putting it together, and then transferred it to a different studio, and then it just had been in development hell, and now it's canceled. But yeah, that one is disappointing that it's not being remade. But now it just basically firms up, well, if I really want to play it, I just need to boot up the PC version and give it another shot. Because I had played a decent chunk of it on GOG back in like 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. And then I had just gotten stuck on a fight and never moved past that. And then I restarted it like last year or the year before. So I really realistically just need to give it another shot one of these days. But with all the other games I have, who knows if that'll ever actually happen. And then they did a reboot in like 2008, I believe, that was completely different, very different style and everything else. And as far as I know, it was a lot easier than the original one. But and I do have that one because I got it for like $2 or $3. But yeah, as far as the other stuff goes, like they don't really have any confirmation of what other games were canceled. As far as stuff that was delayed, the only thing that we've really gotten as a probable one that was delayed that we believed was going to be revealed soon was the remake of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And that one, I mean, I don't really care too much if it ever comes out because we still have access to the original one. But once again, it's another thing where consoles don't really have that access anymore. I mean, technically they can still play the original one, but it's locked at 30 frames per second and obviously isn't 4K or anything for them. I mean, this can be for us, but it really just, I don't know. I don't know what Ubisoft is doing with any of this stuff. It's like they delay games, they cancel games, they shut down studios, they fire lots of people, but they don't fire the higher ups who probably should be fired, because it's pretty clear that the leadership is not really doing what they need to do. Like they're just making a lot of really bad decisions, and it's like you could save a lot of money if you just got rid of some of these people. And I don't know, they just need someone who's going to get better direction for everything. And it's not as though everything they put out in recent years has been bad, but it's definitely been on a decline in terms of quality and polish and everything else. Some games more than others, like the lack of polish on Star Wars Outlaws is just ridiculous. How bad it was. I've heard Assassin's Creed Shadows isn't bad. A lot of people really like it, but I'm not sure how many of the people who really liked it also like Star Wars Outlaws. So that may or may not mean anything. But like the bit I played of Valhalla, pretty solid in terms of gameplay at least. Story I haven't played enough to where I can really comment on that, but gameplay at least is pretty solid. Other than, perhaps being a little bloated, but I don't think it's any more bloated than Odyssey was. Though that I may change my mind as I get further in the game. But nevertheless, I don't know. I'm just... It's very much a wait and see kind of situation. Black Flag is definitely the one that I'm most curious about, because if they stay really faithful to the original game and just make it look prettier, then it could be really good, because Black Flag is a phenomenal game. But if they try to change it too much, then it could just end up basically being like, okay, you might as well just play the original, don't bother with the remake, no matter how good it looks, because it's going to look better, obviously. But is it going to run better? Is it going to be as good of a game? That's yet to be seen. And I mean, if they were already going to be showing the game off soon, I don't know why they didn't just stick with showing it off soon. But none of that was confirmed anyway, so yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, this is just interesting. I mean, it's interesting. I really, since we don't know all of the games that were canceled, it's interesting to know what was canceled, what was delayed. I am in a bit of a boat where I'm curious to see what the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake would have been like, but on the other hand, I'm also kind of relieved that it was canceled, because I'm not entirely certain if they would have done the original game justice or not.
Yeah.
That is sort of my problem. So like I wasn't certain if they would do a good enough job with it. So I while it would have been nice to have a remake, I just was very skeptical if they would actually pull it off in a decent manner, or if they would change things, and I would just be like, really, guys? You're just going to target modern audience and stuff. So that was my concern on that end. I do think one thing that I definitely wish was kind of ported, because apparently there was a remaster for at least, I don't know which game. I don't remember if it was all of the games or just 2 of them. But on the PS3, there were HD remasters for at least 2 or 3 of the games in the trilogy, because someone mentioned that in one Discord server that was like essentially the only way they could play it. So they would have to go back to the PS3 to play it. But if they ported that game, or at least those versions, to every other system, we would at least have a more modern version. And I mean, the PC version, you only have the original version, but you can actually go ahead and add widescreen fixes for it, because that's what I did with Sands of Time. And I have the fixes available for Warrior Within and Two Thrones. But and maybe the GOG version has those fixes, because I know GOG whenever there's like patches and stuff or anything like that, you can have those versions added in. So I might have to go back and check and see if GOG has those fixes in, but you can have that stuff added in on PC. You don't have that luxury on consoles, so it would be great if they would at least give us the remastered versions. That would be nice, getting the full HD treatment. I mean, sure, there might be a little bit of jank from the original games, but at least you would have a better presentation to work with, which I think is definitely nice. It's a nice, at least decent visual aspect there. As far as the yeah, and you brought up a great point about Beyond Good and Evil too. The fact that if the game does, and I definitely think it's not coming out this year. If the game doesn't come out this year, that means next year will be the 20th anniversary since it was revealed, essentially. So the fact that it's been 20 years and the game has not had anything substantial presented at all is that game should just be canceled at this point, because there's no way, unless they think it's like, we've sunk so much money into this game that we have to show something. We have to put this game out. We have to sell something because we've invested so much money in here. It's that whole sunken cost fallacy. So that's probably why they haven't canceled it. But I mean, at this point, just cut your losses and go home, guys, because that game is not coming out. Because if you had something to show us, you would have shown us. And even still, like the fact that you said about how the game would not be running on a PS4 at the time, I would even go and say that even if the game was going to be coming out on the PS5, we would not begin that project because Ubisoft overpromises, but then the end result isn't the same. Like with Watch Dogs, like the game did not look like that when it came out on release. So, we weren't gonna be, we would not be getting that at all. Even if it was even if it was just on PC, I highly doubt they would have given us like that presentation or what they sort of promised us. In general. But I definitely agree that there really needs to be a huge change of leadership in order for this company to actually make some kind of turnaround. They've tried to do stuff here and there. They've tried to, do certain things like bringing games over to Steam, which, wow, who would have thunk it? Instead of having your game secluded on your launcher that people may or may not want to use, instead just put it on like the most popular launcher and call it a day. Wow, that works? What? So maybe if they'd done that sooner, they probably could, have better revenue sheets and stuff like that. Like, hey guys, why didn't we have this much money before? Oh, well, we just had it on our launch. We didn't put it on the Steam thing. I mean, who needs Steam, right? Please, people just come over to our store. Yeah, no. But they definitely need to fix all that stuff. Like you said, I think firing the lower level employees and stuff, that's not going to fix things in the long term. It might make your numbers look better, for the current quarter, but in the long term, you're still going to be facing financial struggles. You're definitely gonna have like problems, but I think the people making the big decisions are the ones who are causing the most problems, like you said. And until you have better people in charge, you'll get fewer Star Wars Outlaws and, depending on how you see things, fewer Assassin's Creed Shadows and, more, I guess, what have been the other things they've been putting out? I guess more, Rogue, Prince of Persia's, and more, oh gosh, I can't remember. But you'll have more hits than you will controversial games, essentially, or just poorly selling games. So that's definitely what needs to be done there. Also, if you want to go ahead, Ubisoft, and just completely remove the need to have Uplay accounts even on Steam, I would appreciate that, and I would buy more games from you.
Yeah.
So you can do that, and you'll automatically get more sales from me. You'll get instant sales from me. Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
sure.
all that. That's all that I have to say.
All right. Good stuff. Well, on a related topic from Ubisoft, they have been teasing, and it's not even like a hidden tease. It's like it's a very clear thing. They teased with a series of emoticons that they are going to bring 60 FPS updates to Far Cry 3, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, and Far Cry Primal. And that they haven't said anything about when exactly that's happening, but it is something that is happening based on the emoticon teasers and the fact that someone responded, oh, you're bringing 60 FPS, and they said, you get a gold star. That was actually what they gave, how they responded to it. So, for reference, Far Cry 3 and Blood Dragon were originally on the PS3 and 360, as well as PC, of course, back in 2012. And then Far Cry 3 Primal came out for PS4 and Xbox One in 2016. And none of them have ever had 60 FPS modes. Now, actually, I guess I should clarify. Far Cry 3 and Blood Dragon did get re-released for PS4 and Xbox One in 2018. But still, no 60 FPS mode. Obviously, no 4K, anything like that. But what's funny about this, to me at least, and we'll get more into our discussion about this, is that the PC versions of these games have had 60 FPS plus since day one, since 2012 for Far Cry 3 and Blood Dragon, since 2016 for Far Cry Primal. And the consoles are just now getting them. And it's not confirmed about whether this is free updates or if this is paid updates. I would assume it's free. I would hope it's free. But nevertheless, what are your thoughts?
Obviously, this is a great thing. It's something that is long overdue, I would say. The fact that you have 14-year-old games that came out 2 generations ago running only at 30 frames per second on modern consoles is ridiculous. I mean, that's completely unacceptable. The games can definitely run that. And, I mean, unless there is a hard cap at 60, I don't know if it's capped at 60 on PC or not.
No.
Okay, in that case, I think this is a bit offensive still, because I believe that there's no reason why these games should only be running at 60 FPS.
Unless they're doing 4K. If they're going to do 4K, that would make sense for 60. For the modern consoles.
It would make sense, but I think you should give them an option to like maybe do 1080p 120.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I mean, I think that for modern consoles, running Far Cry 3 is at higher frame rate is definitely achievable, like easily. I mean, it's definitely easy, but the fact that it took them this long to do it is just ridiculous, to say the least. But that is the thing with consoles, is that you have to wait for these types of things to come to you. Like, you have to wait for any type of update to come, even if your system can handle it. You know, if you're just running something, if you're just running a backwards compatible game, which is kind of like the pro and con of backwards compatibility, is yes, you can play your older games, which is great, and I love that, and I think it's something that every console should have, even if it's just going back at least one generation. The con is that you're only running that version, and you can't get any improvements unless the developers go back in and add a patch or a fix or an update that allow you to take advantage of the more powerful hardware that you're using. So that is definitely the con. But whereas, like, you know, say on PC, if you bought this game 14 years ago, it's not going to run the same as it is running today. Unless you've just reached like some very hard cap as far as like what you're capable of doing, you know, you're going to get better performance. And, you know, you're probably going to get better visuals as well with those games too, which is just because it's the same game, but you just get to improve what you're capable of doing, which is beautiful because it's the same game, just you have better hardware now. So I do think that's great that consoles get this. It's definitely long overdue, and you know, I also think this should be free. I don't think this is something that should be paid for. I think Ubisoft would be shooting themselves in the foot if they charge for this, because you're going to... This is something that people want, but the fact that you're going to lose a whole lot of goodwill by making them pay money for something, especially since these are 10 and 14-year-old games, like, really? You're going to charge people to run their games for a little better and sort of bring them up to par with what PC has had for years? Like, that's kind of low. So I'm hoping they don't do that, hoping it's free, but this is, I feel like, is the bare minimum that should have happened in the first place. But good for consoles, but yeah, it sucks that you had to wait this long.
What's especially sad about this is that even if it requires a little bit of tweaking, you can easily get 60 frames per second on all of these games on the Steam Deck. And have been able to since the beginning, because these are old games. It's just one of the reasons why I am so done with consoles. And I guess, let me clarify. When I say done with consoles, why I'm done buying new consoles, why I'm tired of consoles. I just got sick of dealing with all of this nonsense, because that's what it is. It's nonsense. The fact that you have to pay extra to access the extra power of your hardware because of the way these games are designed. Whereas PC, I'm like, I bought Far Cry 3 back in like 2013. And I can run it at 60 frames per second on my Steam Deck. I could, when I had my initial build in 2016, I could run the game at 60 frames per second. And that's not even a strong system. It's weaker than the consoles. That 2016 build is weaker than modern consoles. And yet I could run it at better frame rates. Granted, it wasn't it wasn't 4K. But so, I mean, the frame rate is, I mean, considering the fact that these, right now, these systems in 2026, at least until they're updated, cannot run at either 4K or 60 frames per second. Can't even do 4K 30. It's 1080p 30 is what they do on consoles right now. And when they're updated, hopefully they'll at least be doing 4K 60 and not just 1080p 60. But I agree with you that they really should give them the option for 1080p 120. Now, most people are probably just going to go with 4K 60 because more people than not have 4K TVs, and most of them aren't going to have TVs that go above 60 hertz anyway. So from that standpoint, like, it's okay, but still, so many of these things are just really basic stuff that we've had on PC for a decade plus. And the fact that you don't even have that option on consoles is ridiculous. And that should theoretically change at least some with the next generation Xbox, with it basically being a PC with Windows. But, I mean, I guess it's better that it's coming now than not at all. But it's still just kind of ridiculous that you have these old games that are just now getting these updates. And I mean, I know that people will be excited about this because there's definitely people who really loved these games before. Like even though I have Far Cry 3 and Blood Dragon because of all the great things I heard about them, the little bit that I played of Far Cry 3 I liked, but I didn't play very much of it. And I've never touched Blood Dragon because I wanted to play the main game first, since Blood Dragon's just a standalone spin-off from Far Cry 3. But yeah, it's the fact that I could do this a long time ago is just really sad. That I could do it so long ago and they're just now getting it in 2026. And hopefully at least it will be a free upgrade and not a charged upgrade, because if they charge even $10 to do this upgrade, it's like, come on, really? Hopefully at least like the PS5 Pro will get like a better thing, you know, use Pisser and make it, you know, so that it can do the 120 or whatever. But I would not expect that. I'm sure they have to do 4K though. There's no way they can do it and it not be 4K for 60 FPS, even if it's just upscaled 4K. And well, those games are pretty CPU intensive, so it probably will be upscaled 4K. If they weren't CPU intensive, they could probably manage without. I mean, they could probably do native, but because of how CPU intensive those games are, at least with Far Cry 3 for sure, and probably Primal as well, they're pretty CPU intensive. So anyway, that is all I have to say on that. All right. Well, we had the Xbox Developer Direct over the weekend. And I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about all of the games. I have the trailers for each one of them. But so there were 4 games talked about. 3 of them we already knew about. One of which was Fable. Then there was also Beast of Reincarnation, which was revealed last year. And then Forza Horizon 6. And then we also had a new game from Double Fine, which is the creators of games like Grim Fandango and Psychonauts, both of those games, and a variety of other titles. Brutal Legend. I can't remember all the different games they've done. But anyway, the point is that they revealed their new game called Kiln. So of those games, which one would you like to talk about first?
Well, I guess I would. I guess I'll talk about Beast of Reincarnation. So of course, like you said, the game was announced last year and we already knew about it, but we saw more stuff in depth, especially with the combat and the sort of, I guess, in sync combat you have with your companion. And I sort of really liked how they were approaching that, especially with as you build bonds, you know, you can sort of like have synchronized attacks, and you can sort of like slow down time to like issue commands and stuff. And I was like, that's kind of cool, that's kind of creative. And I don't know, just the way the gameplay seemed to be better this time around than when it was initially revealed. And so I was really interested in this game more than I was previously, and so I even went ahead and added that game to my wish list, because I thought, okay, this might not be a day one purchase for me, but it might be a near day one purchase, just because it looks a whole lot better than I initially thought it did last year. And so I thought it might be worth checking out. So I think their presentation here was definitely worth checking out, because it seemed pretty promising to me.
Yeah, I agree very much. Of course, I already thought the game looked really good last year, but definitely the stuff that they showed made it look even better. At least right now, the trailer that's playing is the one from last year, because I didn't see the I couldn't find the smaller contained trailer for this, but I'll try to see if I can get that before I publish the video, so it may or may not end up displaying the current one. But yeah, I think the game looks really good, and it's on my wish list. I don't know if it'll be day one, just because of how many other games I have to play, but I'll definitely be keeping my eyes peeled on it at the very least. Next game I do want to talk about is Fable. And this one actually looks really great. Quite honestly, I like the fact that they did stick with the ability to pick whichever, to customize your character. It's not just limited to, you have just this one character to choose from. Thankfully, they did in fact stick with the non-ugly version of the female character, which is good. And then of course they have a bunch of other options as well. There's a lot to this game, and I hadn't played any of the previous Fable games, so like I can only go based off of what I've heard. Seems like this one is definitely deeper in terms of its mechanics than the previous ones, but the previous ones still had a lot of the same stuff. It's just obviously this one's a lot better looking. The combat looks really good. The reputation system, I think, is pretty fun and interesting. I'm just like heavily interested in this game, and it's on my wish list. I'm hoping that there will be some kind of demo down the line, but even if there's not, it's certainly something that I will be very seriously looking into. Oh, and it's day one on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation.
Yeah, that definitely is great. Yeah, I agree. It definitely looks a whole lot better than what was shown before. Definitely is a whole lot more in depth than from what I remember. Like, because I've played some of the first Fable, but I didn't play too much of it. But from what I can recall, it is a whole lot more in depth. I didn't play enough of it to where I started getting into like the whole good evil dynamics as far as like how it changes your appearance, but I have heard that people definitely aren't people who've played the older games aren't really fond of that, because you know it's sort of like a nice touch to have like your appearance change based upon if you are, you know, doing more good acts versus evil acts. So I can understand the frustration there, but you know, at least with the other stuff that they've done, it's definitely I would say a good improvement. I wouldn't necessarily say if I would be getting this or not. I still have to go back and play the first one, and then I guess later on decide if I want to play like 2 and 3 and also maybe even like the Lost Chapters. But yeah, I think this is an improvement over what they've shown us before. But also great that it's coming across, you know, the board day one for most platforms. Maybe sometime down the road they'll port it to the Switch too. Might be a possibility, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah. I'd thought in the past about checking out the older games, but from a realistic standpoint, I think I would probably just jump in on this one. Like I don't own any of the other ones. Like I had at various times considered grabbing some of them, but I never did. And with as little time as I have to play games as it is, if I was going to play one, I'd probably rather just start with the new one and not even bother with the old ones. But who knows? Maybe once reviews come out for this and I, you know, find out if it runs like garbage and everything, I may decide that I'm not going to bother with it. I mean, my PC is not going to have any issues running the game, I'm sure, unless it's just really, really poorly optimized. But I'm definitely curious to see how it's going to be optimized, because Playground Games, of course, is well known for the Forza series, or at least the Forza Horizon. I can't remember if they do both the Forza Motorsport and the Horizon series, but those games are very well optimized, and so theoretically, this one should be as well. But racing games also are typically easier optimized because you don't have nearly as much going on as you do in a game like this that's open world. So, yeah.
One thing I can't say if this is really true or not, but something I've heard is, in case you like decide I might not bother starting with the older games, is that I have heard that this game is sort of a soft reboot of the first game, so you could just go ahead and it definitely adds, I guess, sort of an incentive. Just go ahead and play this one first if you want, just because you might be just getting the same story as the first game anyway, essentially.
Yeah. All right. Of the other two games, did you want to talk about either of them?
Yeah, I will. I guess I'll talk about a little about Kiln. That one definitely was a surprise to see. And it's definitely, the gameplay I saw was definitely interesting. Can't say 100% if I would get into. I mean, well, actually, no. I'll say it's interesting because it's definitely something new, but because it is online multiplayer, I mean, I'm not entirely certain if I would get it or not, because I definitely enjoyed several of the Double Fine games that I played, like Grim Fandango. I enjoyed that. I thought that was a pretty nice, good point-and-click game. I like the style. I like sort of like those throw callbacks to noir-style films and stuff like that. So I definitely enjoyed that as a whole lot. From what I played of Psychonauts, the first game, I enjoyed that, and I was reminded that I need to still go back and finish that game. But
Same.
Both games were fun. The humor in those games were great. So this, something like this, I would say is great. But the fact that it's just like, it's a multiplayer online game, and so I'm just like, I'm curious to see more about it, but I would have just liked to have a sort of more single player experience. But I mean, maybe they'll come back and do something, but it was just interesting to see, that Double Fine is doing something here, and they might have something new in the works still that is more in line with their usual repertoire. But yeah.
Yeah, for me, this one, very much like you, I'm just not really into multiplayer stuff. I'd rather have a game that has an end to it, and the only way I could see myself really playing this game would be if, like, you could just play single player against bots. That could be a little bit fun just for the sake of checking it out. But even then, I don't know, like, I think it looks great. I think that it looks like it's a quality game, and it would probably be a lot of fun. But I don't like doing the multiplayer only games, because for me, it just kind of feels like a waste of time unless you are just really into multiplayer stuff. And I like doing the single player stuff because then I have a game that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and this one just doesn't have that. So it pretty much lost me from that standpoint. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about the game. I don't think it's for me, even though I think it does look like a good game.
Yeah, and I think one thing that actually would make it a whole lot better is if they did have an offline multiplayer. So if you could do something like have it set up like Mario Party, like, just have some friends,
that would
family,
actually be great.
Play it that way. That would be great. That would be fun. But the fact that it's only online is sort of like the big, the downside of it, essentially.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being more fun. Like, that would make me a lot more interested in playing, because if I could play it offline with, like, my kids, I would be way more interested in it, because I know that it's something they would enjoy. Like, I mean, my kids, one of the things that they play on PC regularly now is Goat Simulator 3. And it's because it's you can do it as all offline multiplayer split screen. And if this game had that type of mode, I would probably be a lot more interested in actually getting it and checking it out, because I can play with them. But if it's all online only, then it's more of a nah, I'll pass. All right, the last game they showed off was, of course, Forza Horizon 6. Now, I will say I've been so back and forth on whether or not I want to try one of these games. The problem I have with this is just the fact that the one time that I tried to play a Forza Horizon game, and I just tried the demo of 4. It was right after I played Arkham Knight, and I was hoping, I was for some reason thinking that the cars would handle similarly to how the Batmobile handles in Arkham Knight. And I mean, obviously not crashing into buildings and that sort of thing, but just controlling similar in terms of the feel of driving one. But it wasn't anything like that, of course. And so I just quickly fell off. I played the demo for probably 15 minutes or something, and I just decided it wasn't really for me. And I mean, I've heard such good things about Forza Horizon 5, and I've gone back and forth on maybe buying it at some point, but the price never drops low enough to where I'm it's an impulse price, because 50% off, it's okay, $30. That's still more than what I spend for a game that I'm not sure I'm really going to like. If it was $10, I'd probably go for it. But with Forza Horizon 6, I pretty much, I'm in the same spot where I would like to like these kinds of games, because I could see how driving cross country, especially going through Japan and everything, which is what this one does, could be really fun. But the problem is that I just don't like the way the cars handle compared to, it's not arcadey enough for me. And I like that arcadey feel for driving, because that to me, that just feels a lot better to drive. But it's one of those that maybe down the line, when it's cheap enough, I might give it a shot. I might even consider, buying it at 50% off. But I really don't know. I think, honestly, what really needs to happen is they need to drop Forza Horizon 5 down to $10. And then I would check it out. And if I got into it enough, then I would grab 6 at some point. But until I find myself able to play one of these games and legitimately enjoy it enough to where I feel like it's worth grabbing a later installation, I'm probably not going to do it.
Yeah, I'm not certain if I'll get this game or not, just because I'm not the biggest racing person, and when I do play racing games, I'm playing more kart racing games like Mario Kart, or I'll play a game that's more akin to F-Zero. So anything that's really high paced, futuristic racing games. Also, I guess what's Redout is another similar game to F-Zero that I'll play. But so realistic racers, I haven't played too much of. I mean, I bought Forza Horizon 4 right before it was delisted and stuff, because it was pretty much dirt cheap at the time. But I haven't touched the game yet. But yeah, I mean, I like the aesthetics of this game because it's in Japan, and you get, like you said, you get to go across Japan in different areas and stuff. That's definitely cool. I like that. I like the culture and stuff, so I'm interested in that. And the fact that there is also a giant Gundam statue is also pretty cool to me. But just in general, though, this is a game that I probably would not get in general. I mean, maybe I would probably say the game would have to be $20 before I would consider purchasing it, just because, you said, something like this is a game that I don't know if I would like it or not. And I haven't touched 4 yet, so I don't know how the cars handle. So I can't even say if I would like the controls or not. It's just a matter of me actually wanting to go ahead and play the game, just because this isn't my type of game to go and play.
Yeah.
But maybe at some point I will go back and install for and give it a go and maybe decide, oh, okay, I actually kind of enjoy this, so I'll go ahead and wishlist 6 right now, and then maybe once it's at least $40 off, if I like it, of course, then I might consider buying it, or I really don't feel like this is a whole lot of fun, so I might not get the game, or I'll definitely wait for it to hit $20 at least before pulling the trigger. But yeah, I mean, it looks nice from. I mean, 6 looks nice from what we've seen, though.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts or topics you wanted to discuss?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, let's get into our recommendations and dissuasions. Why don't you start us off?
All right. So my recommendation is going to be, oh gosh, where's my? Just have this up here. Okay, yeah, sorry. I lost my recommendation there for a minute. So my recommendation is going to be, if you are, and this is something that I've definitely done in the past before, or actually no, my recommendation is going to be, if you're able to do it, use external drives for big transfers rather than flash drives, just because, as I've seen of late, flash drives, if I'm transferring large files, they seem to over time take longer to transfer files rather than the external drive. So just like get yourself it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Like if you just get, say, like a Crucial drive or any sort of small external SSD, just plug that in, and it'll just like take you maybe like a minute or two to transfer something that's probably, say, 8 gigabytes large, and then just transfer that between systems rather than getting a standard USB flash drive, which initially those did have roughly about the same transfer speed, but it seems like over time they start to be a little slower and start to take maybe about 6 to 8 minutes to transfer the same data that they transferred before. So I definitely would recommend, if you're transferring large files, just use those SSDs, or maybe even like external hard drives. Those might still be faster than the flash drives.
All right. All right, well, my recommendations, first of all, I have to recommend getting Banjo recompiled on Steam Deck and or PC, because it's a fantastic game, and of course, getting it on Steam Deck or PC, you can run the game at higher resolutions, much better frame rate, with actual proper camera control, at least, apart from the areas where you can't control the camera at all, but it's just a much better experience. And of course, it's a fantastic game as it is, and the art style holds up really well, even with it being obviously an N64 game originally, but it's worth it. So definitely check that out. My next recommendation is, especially if you are switching between connecting via Wi-Fi versus going to Ethernet. I'm going from Wi-Fi to Ethernet connection. If you're downloading a game on Steam and it's going very slowly, like you have a really ridiculously long time, much longer than you should, pause the download and then reactivate it, because a lot of times that will end up increasing the speed dramatically. Like I had earlier when I was downloading Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on my laptop. Initially I had it doing through Wi-Fi, and it said I had like 4 or 5 hours to download, which is ridiculous. I have gigabit internet. Then I plugged it in through Ethernet. It improved, but not by much. So then I paused it, restarted it, and it went down to like 40 minutes. And then it was like dropping down as low as like 7 minutes when it had 40 gigs left to download. And I mean, then it kind of like went up and down, and I had to pause it and restart it a couple times to get it actually downloading at a consistent speed. But yeah, it makes a big difference. So definitely, especially when you're doing it on wired internet, make sure to pause it and then restart the download. All right, dissuasions.
My dissuasion is going to be do not buy the Cooler Master Encore 100 Air. This is a mini ITX small form factor case, and it's a good idea on paper, but building in this thing has been a hassle, from trying to get the power supply in properly, which I think either the directions just mislead you, or there just was something else so the power supply was an issue. Trying to get the PCIe riser cable into the motherboard was an issue, and then just trying to get all the other cables in and get the panels on at the end of the day was just a hassle. It just was a big headache for me, and I have a lot of regrets with getting this. Now, maybe if you get the Encore 100 Max, which has a power supply already built into it, as well as a liquid cooler, that probably might be better, because you'll have those components already right there, already built in for you, so you don't have to worry about getting that set up. I've heard good reviews on that, but at least with the Air model, it's just been it was a pain for me, and it made me feel like I've never worked with computer parts before.
Yeah.
So definitely do not get that model.
All right, good to know. Don't know if I'll ever be doing any mini PCs, but that's still good to know if I ever do. All right, I have two dissuasions that are related to cooking. So, first of all, when it comes to brisket, do not cut with the grain. The pastrami that I made last week, I always forget to actually pre-cut a slit so that I remember which way the grain is, which way I need to cut. And so sometimes it doesn't happen as much as it used to, but there are times where I'll accidentally cut again with the grain, which elongates the fibers, which makes it so that it's tougher. It's harder to chew and cut and everything else. So unfortunately, it seems like that's what happened with the pastrami that I made. The flavor is amazing, but some of it's a little tougher than it should be. So don't cut with the grain when you're cutting. I mean, it's true with meat, period, but especially with brisket. The second thing is, if you use whole cloves for a recipe, don't leave the whole cloves in something unless it's being pureed, because you will occasionally just get a bite with the whole clove in it, and they're not big, they're very small, but it's just a little too much flavor. I mean, it's a bit too strong of a flavor to bite into an actual clove versus when you just have like the ground cloves. Ground cloves, it's not a problem because it spreads out. But I made what was supposed to be a chicken korma recipe, which is a type of Indian chicken, the other day, and I mean, everything turned out really good, even though I would say it wasn't quite as much chicken korma as it was something different, but it was still really good. But the whole cloves, like, I don't think it said in the recipe to pull them out after sauteing them a little bit, but in the future, that's definitely what I would do, because the cloves add some good flavor, but the problem is I've just been like randomly getting bites with a whole clove in it, and it's just too much. So, yeah. That is everything I have.
That's definitely interesting. I'll definitely make a big note with the cloves, just because I have recipes with cloves that I haven't used yet, but I'll definitely make a note about using them.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're using ground cloves, or if it's like a recipe where you put whole cloves in, but then they get ground up, then it's no big deal. But it's just if you're not grinding them up, it's a good idea to fish them out before you do anything with them. Like, I know I use cloves in the brine for the pastrami, but that it doesn't make it into actually cooking it. It's just there for it to sit, for a week and a half. So yeah, this is the first time that I used them in a recipe, and then unfortunately occasionally just come across them in bites. I would hope by now that we've gotten all of them consumed or removed, but they kept popping up, so we'll see. All right. Will, where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. I have a video coming out sometime this week. A project that I've been wanting to get to for a while that was somewhat inspired by you. It'll, like I said, it'll be coming out sometime this week. I have to do some benchmarks on it, but it's fun. It's sort of going to be a sort of throwback to like my earlier years to a degree, but it was nice getting this together. So we'll see what happens. I just have to go ahead and edit the video down, since I've got 2 hours of stuff that I recorded, plus still to the benchmark, so that'll be interesting there. Then I might have another video coming after that at some point, but I'm not entirely certain if I'll get around to that or not. But that's something we'll just have to wait and see. Then I also have my other channel, Justin's Bible Blog. That's at Justin's Bible Blog. No new content there yet. I still have to go back and decide how I want to format my videos moving forward. I haven't come to a full decision yet, but it would really just depend on how I want to handle things. So that's going to be on hold for the moment.
All right. Well, you can find me on my YouTube gaming channel at TheFrozenGamer87. There hasn't been anything new in a bit, and I don't know how soon the things that I have to put out are actually going to be worked on / ready. I'm hoping to maybe get them out in the next month or so, but it's just a matter of taking the time to record, because that's really what it comes down to. That's the part that I always struggle with, is just getting the recording done. The editing I don't mind so much. It's just the recording I don't like doing. But we'll see what happens with that. I am planning to do my Extra Life 24-hour stream on April 10th, which of course will be a Friday. Right now it's still kind of up in the air as far as the actual planning goes, because I've already gotten the day off approved. So it's like, that's the date I'm planning to do. It's the week after Easter. So it should work out timing wise. I just need to mainly I need to start working on getting stuff ready for that, particularly getting all of my templates set up, because there are things that I have to do slightly different from how I did for Stack Up, but I also want to use the good things that I did with Stack Up this last year to make my Extra Life things better. So it's just kind of working with all those and doing reconfigurations and everything, and then doing some test streams. I'm hoping that I can get started working on that early enough to where I can multi-stream to at least also Twitch would be the idea. I would love to be able to do YouTube, Twitch, and Rumble, but I don't know how realistic that is, just based on previous experience I had trying to do Rumble and YouTube and Twitch all at the same time before. Last time I tried to do that when I was doing some test streams before the last, I think it was before my last it was my last Extra Life stream, that it wasn't really working out well I couldn't get it to actually do to Rumble at the same time as the other two. So, at the very least, I'm going to try to see if I can get it YouTube and Twitch at the same time. Just to kind of expand it a little bit more, hopefully, you know, maybe just have people come across it randomly that wouldn't come across it otherwise, because YouTube, it's a little harder with live streams, whereas Twitch, it's like, that's all it is live streams. So, we'll kind of see what happens with that. I may actually do some different goals this time around. Like, if I reach a certain goal, I might do something like shave my beard. Give some incentive, and then, which would mean that I wouldn't have the beard covering up my double chin. So it's but like if I could realistically reach like $1,000 without it being all donations from a certain someone, then I would probably even say I'd shave my head if I got enough donations. But once again, that requires, I mean, there's just too much involved with that. I don't think I'm going to set that type of goal because I just don't think that's realistic. And I don't want certain people to feel like they need to donate extra in order to make that happen, because I don't want all of that money to go towards it, even though it's a good cause. So anyway, right now that's just kind of up in the air. It's going to happen. The stream is going to happen either way, God willing. It's just a matter of all the details associated with it that still have to be arranged. Otherwise, there's also the YouTube and Rumble channels for the podcast. That's YouTube at the Orange Box Podcast. Rumble, it's not a custom URL, but you can, of course, find the podcast there. The video version of the podcast goes live on those channels every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues. Then there's the audio-only version of the podcast, which goes live on every major audio podcast platform, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and others. And that goes live at 12 a.m. Central Time every Friday, once again, barring any technical issues. Then I do have a YouTube cooking channel, which hasn't had anything new put up in over a year, but it's all good stuff. That's called Not Authentic But Delicious. That's YouTube at NABD Cooking. I don't have any plans to put out anything new anytime soon. Just timing is not on my side, particularly when it comes to not only the time that it takes to cook the things, but the time it takes to film things, and needing to have a clean kitchen in order to do it, which is less common than I would like it to be. No fault of my wife's or anything, just more an issue with our kitchen in general, and having 3 kids and just everything else. Nevertheless, great recipes on the channel. You can check those out. It's all noob-friendly stuff. In the future, I may try to update some of those recipes, redo the ones that could use some redoing, and then potentially put out more, but there's no plans for that at the moment. It's just kind of a maybe down the line. YouTube just hasn't really been a priority for me apart from for the podcast, and I don't know if that will change anytime soon. So that, I believe, is everything. Oh, I guess the last thing is, of course, you can, if you want to contact us, you can send us an email to theorangeboxpodcast@gmail.com. You can also comment on the video version of the podcast on either YouTube or Rumble, and we will respond to your comment and or read it on the show, depending on the nature of the comment or question or anything else. But yeah, that's everything. So, last chance. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right, well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zerocon. We are the Orange Box Podcast, and until next time, Orange Box Podcast out.